Hi, y'all. It's Brigitte Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Hannah Cranfill, and I wanted to introduce her and I asked her on here because we met actually when COVID started this year in 2020, and we had a great experience, and I wanted her to join me here. And Hannah, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Hannah Cranfill, and thank you so much for having me, Bridget. It's wonderful to get to be here.
It is. And I just want to get to the point how we met. It was in April. We did an online screenwriting course. I think it was called Screenwriting 101, something like that. And it was through the Atlanta Film Society. And I decided to do it because I thought, well, this would be perfect with the beginning of COVID, right? And it was just give me something to do, change, work on different writing skills. And that's how Hannah and I met. And it was all online. They usually, some of the classes they do have in person, but I believe everybody was from Atlanta, right?
As far as I remember, I think so.
Right. And so what is your background? Yeah, aren't you a teacher? And I just don't remember specifically what kind of class you teach.
Yes. So I am a teacher. Currently, I teach preschool and elementary age children from 18 months through fifth grade.
Wow.
And I teach music. So I'm a specials teacher and do music for all the different grade levels and ages. And in the past, I've also taught middle school orchestra.
Wow. Is there an instrument that you focus on? Um,
Yeah, violin is my main instrument.
okay. I think that's a hard one.
A lot of people say so. I don't feel like I'm a good judge since I've played it
Right,
for
because you're
so
good
long.
at it, obviously. If you can teach it, you're obviously have a skill set that a lot of people don't, and they seek that out, which is good. My one question for you is what prompted you to sign up for this online screenwriting class?
So, ever since I was in middle school and high school, I've enjoyed filmmaking with friends just as a hobby. And when I was a child, we would do it in our backyard and we would make the costumes and get together whatever props we could from our toys or make them craft projects together. And then that kind of got put by the wayside when I went to college because I wasn't studying it for a career. And so I focused on education and got started in that and everything. And then this past year and early at the beginning of this year, I started thinking about it again and had been watching a lot more movies and started wondering if it would be a good time to get back into it and start trying to do it again on the side. Obviously, as an adult, you have a lot more options and opportunities for that
Right.
than as a child. So I had been thinking about it a lot, and around February or March, I decided to go ahead and start looking up Atlanta Film Society classes and see what was coming up, see what the opportunities were, and saw the screenwriting class and decided to jump in.
And then COVID.
Yep.
Right. Right. That's what's so funny. Hannah reached out, which I think is so cool. I think it was like a group. I shouldn't say a group chat, but it was their online platform. She says, "Hey, there's this online, not online, but locals only short film that we could. Are we interested in? We were going to write it originally, right? And then so I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And someone and Esha was the other person that did it. So we finished the screenwriting class before we actually, I believe, started to write our little story. And I think right after that screenwriting class, there was a short film class too, right?
Yes, I think that was in May.
Right. And so it helped us between the two get the script down, right? Writing a screenplay or whatever is so different, and you have to think about the getting people and more engaged with it, right? It's more very. I saw it as conversational in a
Yes.
way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's very visually based.
Yes.
So you have to think in terms of what you can show instead of just telling.
Right. You got to explain it and describe it and put some emotion in there. You want to try to get the person to understand the character. And so when our first call, we talked about doing this. We did like a Zoom call with me, you, and Esha, and then we went through and like, what are we going to do? So we just really, guys, we just started writing, right? We kind of tried to have a similar, I should say, storyline to come up with some characters, and we ended up deciding, let's talk about this coronavirus. We're three different women with three different perspectives of what's happening, but we had fictional characters, obviously. So that was we thought that was a good tie-in. And Esha, the one that isn't here, she has two kids. She works. So she had it a little different than Hannah's a teacher, and then I'm the older woman who has grown-up kids. So it was kind of cool to look at it, I think, from women's perspective for three different ways. But
Yeah.
this never would have happened if you hadn't put that out there.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite takeaways from it, I guess, just in terms of almost like life lessons, was just to take that risk and kind of put yourself out there and see what
Right.
comes of it. Because I think before we got started on this and talked about it and figured it out, none of us would have imagined that we would be doing this in 3 months
Right.
or 4 months. So,
Right. So then what we ended up doing, we each of us wrote, I think it was maybe 4 pages per person, per character kind of. And then we kind of went through it and put it all together to get the kind of the script down a little bit. Then we're like, oh, hell, how are we going to film this? Right. And because that's before they had any parks open. And I think they had state parks open, but everybody was shelter at home, especially in my county. And you live in the same county as I do, right?
right.
So we're like, oh gosh. So, and Esha, to me, I think she was very critical because she has the video editing, a lot of video editing experience. So we actually based it on our personal, I shouldn't say skills, but what we were good at in a way. And it was such a great, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And then we ended up meeting, we did the last shoot first. Does that make sense? Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yeah. We almost did it in reverse order of
Yes.
shooting it.
Right. So we were at first, then we were like, we don't really know how this should really flow. Right. So we did this shot at the park. I don't remember the name of the park, but it's in Atlanta. But it was open to the public then. And so Esha brought her camera, and then we were shooting certain things. And they were like, okay, now we got the final shoots. Now let's kind of go. Maybe that's normal. I think I've read that's kind of has happened before. We weren't pioneers in that, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in terms of our shooting schedule, it was mostly determined just by practicality and efficiency. We
Yes.
kind of looked at, okay, here's when we're all available to go shoot this as a group,
Right.
among all our different work schedules and family and all that.
Right.
And then kind of work the rest of it around that, since the other shoots were done pretty much in our homes. So it was a little more flexible.
All right. We use our iPhones, guys. Except for Esha. She has the one with a really good camera. But it was so, I don't know, it just made me think differently. It made collaborating just makes you think differently. And Hannah came up with the name of the short film. It's called Adaptations. And it was really about three women trying to adapt to these sudden changes. And that's really what you have to do in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Hannah was very good at, we have her listed as a director, right? So we had to have somebody, everyone was listed as a writer and a producer, but we had Hannah listed as the director because it was her idea. This would not have happened if she hadn't put it out there. And I'm so glad I read that chat that day or whatever platform that I can't remember the name of it, but it's just such a good thing. You just don't know what you're going to do when you meet new people and look at different aspects of life and perspectives. And I just like working with Isha too. Her kids were just adorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess for people, we should tell you that Hannah did submit it, and we were shocked. At least I was. It was actually selected to be screened, at the locals only. I guess you would call it a film festival, right? But it's locals only.
Yeah, I think technically it was a screening, so the
Right.
locals only screening.
Right. And they normally have it inside the Plaza Theater. So they ended up doing it at in their parking lot, which is basically a drive-in. They had a big screen out there. It's off of Ponce, and I'm trying to think what else. We were talking earlier that the storm that hit Atlanta right before all this happened. Everybody that was there, and I am sorry, my phone is ringing. Everybody that was there were in their cars, and nobody knew if we're going to be able to like watch it because of the thunderstorm. But it stopped. Like what did you say earlier? That's the most opportunistic time. I don't know.
Yeah, the timing was amazing because when we were driving in, it was just pouring rain. There was thunder and lightning, and we're going, okay, this is a drive-in screening. How is this going to work?
Right.
But it did. The storm cleared up. So
And I think it started. Was it what time did it start? Was it 9:20 or? Yeah, it was
yeah, it was
exactly at
kind of
9.
in the evening. Mm-hmm.
It was like 9:20 because then in a drive-in it has to be dark. You can't have bright light out. And I wasn't. I didn't know before I pulled in with the storm going on because back in the day when I did drive when I was a kid, you had to roll your windows down and put the speaker. You'd be pulled up next to a speaker. But then they have it on a tune into a particular radio station, and so it was just a great experience. And I believe we're waiting they're going to do it virtually, right?
Yeah, we're hoping that there will be a virtual screening at some point in the future. We don't know a date or anything like that yet, but we're hoping for that.
Right. I think will happen probably sooner rather than later, but I believe some production stuff has started back in Georgia, I think, for the film industry. I don't know if they know how large the film industry is here. And it's amazing how there's so many creative people here. I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's good for your brain. Is that the right word? So what was your other than us connecting, what did you think was your biggest lesson in all this? I mean, we put ourselves out there, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just let you
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Um, I think I just learned so much about the production process. And I think one big takeaway for me in shooting my own scenes in my apartment was learning how to really direct someone else with the camera. Because I think you can have in your mind what you want a shot to look like or how you want it framed, or the way that the camera is going to move. But then you need to convey that to whoever's behind the camera.
Right,
And I think for all of us, the combination of almost directing our own shots, because really each of us were doing our own in our
right.
homes, and then acting as well, and also being writers producers. It was a lot, but I think it was a really good experience to kind of learn how to balance some of that and learn how to convey your vision to other people. And then I think also the collaborative writing experience was really helpful to me, just kind of seeing other perspectives, and especially I think trying to write comedy. Um,
Right. It's satire, guys. I mentioned that earlier.
yeah, I think it was a challenge, but it was really helpful. And I think it was a very unique project.
It was. It was still something I thought I would never ever do in my life. And I mean, you think about it, but then you're like, nah, because I've always my I'm more of like a producer. You know what I'm saying? I'm really good at operations and putting things together, and that's why I think you did a good job with the directing. I mean, you kind of like gave us some tips. That was very helpful. I'm good at photography, but not if I'm in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's totally different.
Right, and acting that was something I wasn't expecting. I mean, when I
Yeah.
did this, I thought, oh yeah, we're just going to write it, and then that's COVID stuff. But we learned to adapt to the situation, and I made, we hope to get. I hope to be able to work on something together with you guys again. I think that was a you learn to work with people from totally different backgrounds
Yeah.
and how to get along. And we set a goal up front, and I think you did it was a great idea. So now that school is kind of in session, how is your schedule gonna be, right?
Yeah, so we just started today. So today was my first day back. But I think once I get into the routine of the new school year, I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things as far as maybe starting to write some more again, and take some more classes. So at some point, I would love to do the production assistant boot camp through
Right.
the Atlanta Film Society, but I know right now it's on hiatus since it's definitely an in-person
Yeah,
class.
that's the in-person thing, you're right. And when I did the producer series, it was in person as well. They did it 3 months in a row, um, 3 Saturdays, once a month for three. I think it was October, November, December.
That's
And
awesome.
and I'm like, I absolutely, because I'm trying to think, what skills I have. You'll think about this when you're in your 50s too, one day. But what skills can I apply? And I want to make sure I enjoy to me, that's important. I mean, to kind of enjoy what you're doing. And you obviously like music. So I think somehow you would be good with that, getting involved with that too. More with that, possibly.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that I would be interested in doing on future projects is spending some time actually composing music and putting
Yes.
together soundtracks. So there's just so many skills that I want to either learn or improve at in the
Right.
filmmaking arena. So
Right.
it'll
There's
just
so
take
many.
time to practice all of them.
They don't realize how many opportunities are out there. I mean, just like me, I don't have any film. I mean, I did do some stuff when I was younger. I got involved with I did dance. People don't realize I was in a dance troupe. So I was performing, but that's different than acting, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been a good writer, but writing fiction and nonfiction, a book, is not the same as a screenplay. And what was good about our experience is that we are in a group, and we gave each other, we're able to give each other feedback.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think, like Kathy Berardi, she was fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
she's a wonderful instructor. So if anybody ever gets the chance to take a class with her, highly recommend it.
Right. She has just a great perspective, and she gives honest but good feedback. You're like, oh hell, excuse me, I didn't think, because she gave some really good feedback, but you need that kind of feedback to make it better. Because I think we had to do a project, right? Not only were we doing this other thing, this our little short film, but we had to actually do a project for the class, and it was a lot of more steps in it than I realized.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I felt like some of the things that we studied and worked on in the class, it made sense to me. It was kind of what I had thought it would be. And then there were other things that I went, wow, I've never thought about that. I had no idea that I needed to do that or that was how it worked. So it was really helpful.
Right. And it opened up your imagination. And that's what I keep saying. To me, I think that's how you solve problems, right? Is trying to be creative I don't know why some people back in the day, they thought being creative was not a good idea, but I think it is a good idea, especially now. It,
Yeah.
it just helps you solve problems, look at things in a different perspective. One movie that I watched last night, I just had to share this, was How to Train a Dragon. I think that was so awesome. I mean, I didn't watch it when it first came out because my sons are adults now. So they were teenagers, I think, when that came out. So it was one of the, I mean, it was written so, even though it was animated, it was written so well, the dialogue. Um, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, reminding you, you need to look at why someone is dealing with something different than you, what is their perspective?
Yeah.
And you have come up with different solutions, working together.
Yes.
And so what was like recent, I'm just blabbing here. I've been watching a lot more movies now, again, during the COVID, by the way. So there's a lot of different things I was Jojo Rabbit. Sorry, it's just one that I absolutely love. That was awesome. And yeah, I think that he was the director and the writer, right? The guy that directed it. I think I can't remember. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not. I highly recommend it. So, what movie do you recommend? Since we're talking about movies, what's something that you
Yeah.
recommend?
Well, so actually, my recommendation would be a show rather than a movie because
That's
that's what
fine.
I've been watching lately.
Right.
But Marvel's Agents of Shield is so
Hmm.
good. It's in the final season now. The final episodes are coming out on Wednesday, so I'm really excited.
So, what is it about Agents of Shield that has you so drawn in?
I think, well, it's hard to pick just one thing, but I think if I had to pick one thing, it would be the characters. I feel like the characters are really well written and they're very, you can empathize with them
Right.
and you really feel for them with what they're going through or what they're experiencing, even though obviously you've never been in those situations. Probably, you probably haven't time traveled. Um, but it's just so well written and the characters are so well done. And I feel like all of the characters are unique, but at the same time, like I said, you can sort of see their perspective and see why they're acting the way they are.
And do you think about who the writer, how they did that, do you think about that? I'm right. That's after the screenwriting class. You're like, oh wow, yeah. And so that's one of the reasons I think I like to watch movies sometimes. But I prefer, like you said, I don't watch a whole lot. One thing I got sucked into over COVID was Game of Thrones. I never watched it before, and I should say sucked in. But my husband was one of his coworkers recommended started watching it because we had two Great Pyrenees, and they're big, giant white dogs. And they were like, your dog is just like the dire wolves. We're like, what? So that's when we started watching it. And we're like, oh, some of it's pretty violent. Don't let your kids watch this. But, but it shows you how well the writing was. But I can also agree with some of the other critics of it. The last couple seasons wasn't as good because it wasn't based on the book that um, the author did it on. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it was different writers, and I think they were just trying to speed it up. But that's what I was doing after the screenwriting class. I was looking at the character development, and it made you think. I mean, I grasped it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it's really cool. And we did go on a hike, by the way, one of the parks, maybe about 6 weeks ago. And we had our Great Pyrenees with us. Sweetwater Park. Have you ever heard of that?
I have. I've never been there, but it's on my bucket list.
You got to go. And we went with our dogs, and we were coming back, and we came across a couple different people, and they're like, "Oh my God, your dogs look like dire wolves." We were dying laughing because Game of Thrones. And this one kid came up to our male dog and was petting him and calling him Ghost. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with Game of Thrones, the one of the main characters, Wolves, his name is Ghost. He's white. And then I looked at the mother. I'm thinking in my brain, you not let your kid watch that show. But I just thought it was hilarious. We were at, before someone my husband worked with recommended it, we didn't know what the heck a direwolf was. And, but they are really large white wolves usually. But they were kind of extinct, you know what I'm saying? But I just gotta, my thing is enjoy life while you're here and enjoy those experiences. And I think when you mentioned earlier about doing, I should say choreography, but writing some music, I think composing it would be fantastic. That would help you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's so many different aspects of that whole area that I'm interested in pursuing and trying and just kind of seeing where it goes.
Exactly. And it's, I did it just people gave me feedback on a book that I wrote. They said that's really where a deep root for me. They told me that would be he was a journalist, that my book would be a good, feature film. I'm like, I do not know how to write a picture. And that's kind of why I think I started looking at the classes at Atlanta. I wanted obviously something online, and it all just worked out. At the timing, you think at the time you're like feeling bad, but I thought the stay-at-home stuff was the perfect time to learn something new. And I met new people. I never would have met you
Yeah.
in Esha at all. And I got to meet your husband, right?
Yep.
And he helped. I think we used his car as a prop, right?
Yes.
And I think one of the funny moments, I'm kind of jumping around here, but when I think about your husband's car, I think about what you wrote in your part with that stick that had 6 feet on the 6 feet on there.
Yes.
So she had in the story, guys, she was very stressed out teacher, and she wanted to make sure she was exactly 6 feet away from
Yeah.
everybody.
So
Yeah.
I have a stick with the words 6 feet written on it.
Yeah. Yeah, she had it written on there, and my character swatted away. That's enough. It's too much. It's okay. And you just don't know until you try something. And I highly recommend, even if it's not screenwriting, people try something new if you can, and take advantage of any downtime. And I know I'm lucky in a way that I wasn't hurt. You know, I don't know anybody that's been contacted with COVID or anything, or anyone who's gotten too sick, or financially I'm okay, but I still think try in some shape or form, right? Um, to do something new. And what I'm going to do is, Hannah will let me know, because she's the one that is contact with the Atlanta Film Society about this, if we're going to do it virtually. And my hope, they said they're going to do it, but they don't know when. I'm sure that's because there's so much turmoil. No one wants to know or how to. I'm sure there's some technology that they probably need, I would think, to get involved, right? To do this virtually, additional technology.
Yeah, I'm not sure what platform it would be on or what the format would be. I don't know any of those details, so I guess we'll find out.
We will. It will be unexpectedly good news. That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing just to say, hey, I did this. I was involved in this unexpected night, and I was just doing it to write, right? And then we got to go to a drive-in after it rained and watch our little selves up on the screen. And it was just, I don't know, I'm so glad my husband came with you. I think your husband was with you too, right?
Yes.
It was just a blast. Well, I appreciate your time, Hannah, and I will let you go, and hope everybody has a great day. And then I hope you subscribe to this podcast, Real Things Living. Thanks, everybody.